Right, we might kick it off there. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. We've got Mark Wallace here to do a investor presentation on G50 Corp. Obviously, a lot of news flow out of Whitecaps and Golconda, and the last 2 months have been really busy. So I'll hand it over to Mark. Take it away.
Thanks, Harry, and thanks everyone for making time to join us today. Um, we've been frantically busy since late 2025, since we made the announcement of the discovery at Golconda, and then the workflows that led from that, including the mineralogy and met test work and so on on the gallium. So the intention of today's webinar is probably as much a town hall as it is a webinar, which is to sort of give everyone a chance to get caught up on a lot of the news flow we've delivered since probably March this year. So the April network and what that means for Golconda, the drilling recently at Golconda and the update there, and then Whitecaps as well more recently. So it's a reward for effort and a reflection of the activity that's taken place at both projects and within G50 itself. So I think just a reminder, there'll be a few people here that are quite familiar with G50 and some probably quite new. So this is going to be a bit more broad based, and I believe the Q&A to the back end, and hopefully we can answer and get across everyone's questions when we get there. So just a reminder, high level where we are in tier one jurisdiction of the United States. For us, Nevada and Arizona are our focus. They're probably, for us personally, numbers one and two for mining jurisdictions in the US. For an example, for those who aren't familiar, it's probably the Western Australia equivalent that we have in Oz. Very pro-mining, very supportive culture for mining, and a lot of infrastructure and the community support as well for in both states, especially for both of these projects. So, when you're starting is very supportive states and also now federal government, and then it just comes down to making our discoveries. And we chose both of these projects, both for their proximity to historical mines, but also the activity that's taken place at both Golconda and Whitecaps historically. In Australia, we'd call it drilling in the shadows of headframes. A good starting point for finding new mines is underneath and along strike old ones. So, and both Whitecaps and Golconda share that DNA. We have significant private property or patented claims at both projects, and it facilitates an easier and faster path for activity, especially drilling and so on. I think high level, just to place it, Golconda is our flagship project, but Whitecaps is a very close second, and is only second by virtue of being within the company, a shorter period of time, and has had to go through our first principles workflows of working up to generate the geological model, and then hopefully you'll understand today the outcomes from that model and the drilling that's taken place. So we'll start with Golconda. It's going to be a mix of both the mineralogy network, the gallium, gold, and silver, and how it all fits together and how we approach Golconda. But it's one big project. It all comes out together. And the network that we've delivered in April will show you how our path to market and commercialization should take place. So let's start with Golconda. Just quickly, high level. So our cap structure, very tight, very supportive shareholders, and we thank you all if you've joined us today, and we'll be welcoming you hopefully shortly for those that aren't shareholders. So 205 million shares on issue for a circa 130, 140 mil market cap. The cash at bank there as of the March quarter. We're due to update next month for the June quarter that's just taken place. All I would say is a lot of the activity that we have delivered on in the last few months has already been incorporated in the spend up until March. So we have been spending clearly in the last 3 months, but this figure is not whittling away anywhere near as fast as people would believe. Our top 40 own roughly 70% of the register, board of management and insiders, a bit over 10, but we'll call it 10 for today. We've had some changes at board level and exco, and probably a reflection of where we've come from and where we're going. And so Ian Davies, our chairman, who has a strong background in commercializing very large projects, he's brought a lot of focus and strategy to us. And then it's more a reflection of probably we're post-discovery and now working to more of a commercialization strategy for both projects. Bernard is our non-exec director and founder. Our pioneers have immense success in North America, especially in Nevada. We do rely on Bernard's 20 plus year network and technical skills of operating in this part of the world, facilitates a lot of access to people that would ordinarily probably take a lot longer than we do. Craig recently joined us as a non-exec director. He previously worked for 10 plus years at Oceana, Goldfields, and with the Lundin Group. And so has a lot of experience in North America, and he's been fantastic support, especially on the technical side as we execute our programs. And more recently, Peter joins us as CFO. Shamila stepped down, and probably more reflection of the project status of where we are and where we're going with it. We're probably heading to, how do we now look to commercialize and fund the projects going forward? And Peter comes with the experience in that strategic planning and financing. And Danny Sims, who joined us as we were pre-IPO, brought Golconda to Bernard's attention and is still heavily involved running the exploration focus for now at Arizona at Golconda. So high level, two strategic projects. Golconda in Northwest Arizona. We're roughly only 90 minutes from Vegas, and it's easy to access. It's fantastic, straight down the main highway and into Golconda and the property. The local town Kingman's only about 20 k's away, and that services the support staff and drillers and so on for the project. Whitecaps is what we call South Central Nevada, just outside of Tonopah in the town of Manhattan, and strong infrastructure and support. So just a nod to history here. Golconda was the highest grade zinc lead mine in the early 1900s. A lot of gold and silver reported to the concentrate. Surface infrastructure was basically burnt to the ground, and Golconda's been stuck in a time capsule for ever since. And so until Bernard and Danny got access to it, we started building up the geological model. We've been at this project now for the better part of 7 years, two of those private and five as a listed company. Whitecaps was introduced in late 2022, had all the hallmarks of something similar to a Golconda, which was a project sort of lost to time, and a lot of historical work had been completed. And then it just was upon G50 to approach it with our more modern thinking hidden gem strategy of this first principles workflow and building it up. And so there's a strong technical foundation at both projects, and that gives us the understanding and the gating of how we execute our commercialization strategies. I think we'll probably sneak into Golconda now. For me personally, having worked around the world in mining and energy, the US is a fantastic opportunity. They've largely underinvested and undercapitalized the industry in the US for the last 5, 6 decades, and we always saw that as a massive opportunity. For me personally, if you go to the US to make a discovery, it has to be big. If you want to make a big discovery, you need geology, and then if you've got the geology, then you need lots of claims, and both projects tick all of those boxes. So just high level introduction to the geology here at Golconda. So we're in Northwest Arizona. In the Wallapai mining district here, you have this main structural feature on our property. We call it the tub vein, but it's roughly 20 kilometers. All of the main mines in the area historically have been informed and sit on or around this feature. You largely need to be on or around this to make a big discovery, is our view. So that's informed us of our starting point, Golconda, and then from then it was effectively trying to understand the geology, getting the rigs out, and then start drilling. So here's an idea of where we are, spatially to Mineral Park. So this is the copper moly silver mine that is Mineral Park. The main mine is here. The tailings facility here just to the west. We share common boundaries with Mineral Park, and we're roughly 1,500 meters only as the crow flies. You'll see on this map the green claim outlines. They are our patented claims, and so that's our private property. You'll see the main focus of our exploration is on the patented claims, and again, that facilitates ease of access to the property for drilling. You'll notice our focus was started here at Golconda. The middle part of the project has slowly been heading north. The geology is leading us that way, and we suspect that the main focus will remain central part here, heading northwest as the tub heads northwest, and to the western footwall here. But we don't think this will change, quickly in the next year or two. We've got a lot of mineralized targets to be aiming at. So big land package, patented claims, unpatented claims, and lots of targets. So very exciting. A bit of a brief history, I think, for people to understand our process and our thoughts and where we've got to from what we believe is pretty quick beginnings. 2023, and this is a figure that you'll find in our prospectus. Our main target was this green tub vein area, which is that district structure that we talked to. You'll notice that was informing our geological model and our understanding and trying to get the rig in here and understand what's going on. In 2023, it was two diamond holes, effectively trying to, at each end of the main target there, and then infill with some RC, just basically building a database of knowledge. In that drilling program, we made the announcement of the 35 meters at 5 grams gold discovery, with including 6 grams of silver, which is very exciting. And importantly, we made the discovery of 10 of the 14 holes had gallium in them, including GRCO2, the 308 meters at 28.6 grams from surface. We made that announcement in the August of 2023, and then we had a lot of phone calls for the next 6 months, people wanting to understand a bit more. And when we say a lot of people, it was definitely a part of the market that understood gallium a lot more than us. So, downstream chemical groups and traders and so on. So that gave us a level of comfort and an understanding that meant we had to ask a few more questions of ourselves and of Golconda, and understand a little bit more about the project as a whole and what the gallium means in the potential strategy for Golconda. So we evolved the model, and you can see here now then the focus in 2025 was basically understanding more of the tub, especially in this zone here. GRC 21 and 22 were the discoveries that we announced and made in July of last year. And we started to change our understanding and focus of the project. We started to introduce the concept of this footwall alteration zone that's very discrete. It's mapped from surface, you can see it, and then these parallel veins as well. So evolving from 23 to 25, now you're starting to understand that the model and the targets are getting bigger and broader. And then we delivered the announcement of the discovery of precious metals here in GRC 22. 21 looked pretty good. GRC 17 to the south was 100 meters at closer to 0.8, 0.9. So a big mineralized system and over 700 meters of strike. Within that, though, we had the consistent pervasive gallium results, 25 of 25 RC holes, and then that started to lead us in the direction of understanding where does the gallium sit at Golconda and what does it mean relative to the main structural controls of the precious metals. So in 2026, so about 2-3 weeks ago, we delivered an update. It was roughly 12 to 13 holes, a mixture of core and RC, and that was most of the drilling that we've done in the last 6 months at Golconda. The RC rig finished there this week, and so there's probably another dozen holes or so to report over the coming 2 months. And so some of them are in with ALS for assaying, and some of them are yet to be delivered, but there's a lot more news flow to come over the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. So this little rectangle here is, the sum total of our thoughts of the project from 2025, and you'll see the infill of the drilling there that took place in 2025. The results we delivered a few weeks ago expands our understanding and our knowledge of the model here. So we've effectively doubled the strike now up to 1.3 kilometers. The width now target looks more like a 400 to 500 meter wide structural target here in this corridor. And we've drill tested depth from 180 down to 400 meters now. So the volume and size and scale has increased, sort of tenfold. The recent drilling of RC was focused up here at the Golden Eagle, and I think results there, if we can replicate the results we've seen here further down the tub and these parallel veins, we expect the strike to sort of increase from 1.3 up to closer to sort of 2 kilometers. And I think 2 kilometers by 500 is a pretty good opportunity to make some big discoveries here, and that's our goal. So the drilling in 2026 has basically proved that these parallel veins are mineralized. They're very weighty intercepts, and they're very strong tenor of grade as well. And so we expect that this will bulk up to be a big opportunity. So you kind of see the geology is leading us more to the north and northwest. So we would like to think it's an open pit, and if so, it's probably going to be quite shallow. Would be the opportunity. Considering the geology here in the model, it probably goes to the bowels of the earth. And so it probably ends up being an underground at some stage, but our focus right now is for following it from the Golconda here and heading north in this lateral zone. So multiple zones, and so parallel veins or mineralized. That's where we expect the volume to come from, and then the gallium then comes along for the ride. So district scale footprint. So what's changed from 2025 to 2026? Double the strike, 5x the lateral opportunity, and double the depth. We're still open in all directions. We don't think that's going to change just yet. The opportunity going forward now is to infill and understand probably the shallow parallel vein structures and to add some volume. Gallium grade still consistent, that 15 to 20 odd grams, consistent wide intervals, largely from surface to the end of hole. We do see the gallium in the host rock, the granite. That would not be our main target for commercializing. It's definitely targeting the gallium in the sericite, and the physical attributes that we've found from the mineralogy and the met test work largely sends us in that direction for commercialization. So, big opportunity. It's got very big quite quick. Lots of targets to aim at. We're evolving the model now. A large part of the assays have already gone into the model, and then the ones coming through will go in, inform us, and we expect to be drilling here towards the end of the summer. You're thinking around November this year would be the goal. So big parallel veins, well understood geology now, and stack repeated mineralization across that wide corridor. That's the target probably going forward, we expect. Just to sneak into gallium now, because it's not become topical, it's stayed very topical. This week alone, we've seen a 30% increase in the gallium price to roughly 2,925 a kilo. For perspective, that's circa $85 an ounce. So you're sort of, well above a silver price equivalent now. We show this is very instructive that in 2023, when China export curbs came in, we've already seen the better part of a 4 to 5xing of price, and we believe we're only just getting started now. So it's it's a very special material for high power applications. At its core, gallium is a facilitator of electron mobility, and that's a pretty wordy way of just saying it makes electricity, move better, more efficient, and faster. So with the efficiency, you get less friction, less requirements for cooling, so less heat transfer. With more efficiency, you can miniaturize and make the application smaller. And we believe that while gallium's probably only a $2 billion market right now, it's going to be a larger part of high power applications and semiconductors going forward. We've seen MOUs between NVIDIA and the main gallium nitride application specialist over the last 12 months. And then we don't think that's going to slow down. NVIDIA is leading the way. We'll expect you to see a lot more news from the major players over the next year or two as that plays out. So very efficient. It outperforms its most nearest competitor, being silicon. It's formed an important part of China's strategy for conquering technical and technology advancement in high power applications, and it's going to be very important for the marketplace going forward. This is just illustrative now and to sort of show you some of the brand names, some of the applications, some of where gallium nitride especially outperforms its peers, especially silicon. The key applications here is probably an important part to focus on. One of them is just data centers and server power, and I think that's becoming relatively well documented. If you then sort of take the arrow from there, then apply it to how we see metals inside a large AI data center. Gallium sits at number 13 there, about 5.3 tons per 1 gigawatt AI data center. So loosely, the market currently is, we understand, between 700 tons and 1,000 tons a year. We think that usage is limited by supply, not by demand, and it won't take long for that market to increase significantly over the next 4 or 5 years, as we see gallium being used in a lot more of these larger data centers. So we've been told, and we expect that gallium demand between now and early 2030s, so 4 or 5 years, we expect that demand to be growing at 8 to 10x over that time frame, largely coming from a very low base. And so I think those numbers are probably achievable, looking at the people involved and the solutions it provides. to the end user. That's just in data centers and so on. There's also applications for electric vehicles, for charging and faster charging. There's applications, renewable energy, solar inverters. Again, any application where there is high energy consumption in the constant on position, gallium outperforms, silicon, which is the incumbent, by a very large margin. We suspect you've only just heard the beginning of it. So how does Golconda and G50 fit into a market growing that fast? Our core differentiation is one, our location. So we're in Arizona. There's probably a number of other potential gallium opportunities in the lower 48. We would argue probably none as advanced as G50. We have been pushing the boundaries of our learnings and understanding. That's why we work with high quality groups like SGS and ALS and so on, and our own chemical engineer, process engineer, who's been instrumental in helping us crack the code. So this fundamentally is we're sitting on the western side of the ridge now, looking back to the east-southeast. This is the parallel vein structures where the precious metals sit. So you've got the Blackfoot, the Golconda, the Tub, Green Linnet, Good Hope, and the Mexican. That's the 500 or 600 meter wide structure. That becomes fundamentally our main target for the projects along 1.5 to 2 kilometers of strike. At surface, this white clay, friable looking, textured sort of material, that is what the gallium optically sits in. It's the sericite, the alteration, and the altered rock. So just high level, Mother Nature has effectively done a lot of work for us with the gallium here at Golconda. So the source of the gallium is the granite, and then a lot of the formation of Golconda here and the geology, the heat source, and then with the leaching and the heat and so on, and the movement around the material, the gallium has leached out from the granite and has turned up in this altered rock. 90% of the gallium sits in 10% of the rock, and that's the sericite. We delivered that information to the market about 12 months ago. That is an undisputed physical property of the gallium at Golconda that we now use to target for pre-concentrating, upgrading, and then also preferentially for recovery, and then also making sure we understand where the gallium sits and how it relates to the precious metals and so on. So we're spoilt for choice at Golconda. It's going to be a very big play and a very big opportunity. Just to close the knowledge gap, so the gallium sits in the sericite, the precious metals sit in the sulfides, where both are present in the same hole, which we do get that a lot. We don't see any communication between the two. So a lot of the physical attributes, being the crushing and the screening and so on, where we preferentially send a gallium to one side of the flow sheet, the precious metals to the other, we expect that we can grab all of it in the hole when we're digging it up all the time. And then the physical properties have allowed us to come up with a low capex, what we believe low opex opportunity for commercialization. So we're going through the gears of that, and I'll show you what that means. So it's an integrated model, okay? You're not going to go here just to grab the gallium, and you're not going here just for the precious metals. It's a holistic approach. It's what we would argue is a modern mine of the future. So, copper project would have gold in it. If it does, you're not going to leave one behind and preferentially recover the other. It helps with spreading the economics and the risk across the whole project. And, gallium's become a very high value proposition for us, especially with the volume that we see here at the project. So now just sneaking to the metallurgy, and I'll keep it high level here. So the work we did and delivered in April, that was working with a sample that was in the deeper part of the system, which is probably more reflective of a larger part of the volume here at Golconda. It was probably at around the 200 meter deep. And so that was a good starting point to understand how gallium potentially can be recovered. In April, when we delivered this news flow, we actually went back at the Golconda. We grabbed a large 3-ton sample, and now we're repeating all of that test work with what is we believe is the oxide material at surface, better reflective of what the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of production could look like. For us, the goal would be to repeat what we've seen with the first test work. There's an opportunity to beat that, but at a minimum, we'd like to see just more of the same. And so less variability gives us a better understanding and an opportunity for understanding the project as a whole holistically over a longer time frame. So that news we delivered in April, we saw 70% recovery of the gallium. and we saw 90%, 97% silver and 82% gold from just a basic screening and flotation. So low capex, low cost opportunity to sort of get into production. With the gallium, we did see a 150 to 200% increase in grade. So people optically seem to have an opinion on what classed as high grade or low grade. We would argue in most mining projects, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And so we're now pointing towards a simple, low cost, physical way of upgrading the gallium to get it to a higher grade product that then we can then begin the chemical process of recovering the gallium into a metal. So our whole goal is to start from a higher grade product, lower volume, and then the next part of the process hopefully should be a lot cheaper for our downstream chemical partners. So high level, here's a pretty simple flow sheet, and this is guiding us at the moment. This has all been built on the mineralogy test work, the met test work, and the physical properties inherent of the gallium at Golconda. So a simple size reduction, first pass, run of mine. You do get gallium there at the very beginning if we want to. Stage one, the option, which is probably a 75 micron grind. So it's not bug dust, it's not super expensive. You get a size reduction in grinding and desliming. And so from here, you dump out a lot of the quartz and the silica, so not mineralized. And that's where you get an immediate upgrading for both the gold, silver, and the gallium. You're just dumping out the oversized, unmineralized product. You can go through a second reduction that looks like it's closer to high 30, low 40 micron, and then you get low gold at desliming, and that delivers either you got the waste product, and then we've got the high precious metal values, a simple flotation circuit, and you can get a gold silver concentrate as well. We can then the micro flotation, we see 63 odd percent of the gallium in this first pass, stage one. We get another 7% through this second pass. You're getting roughly the 70% recovery in the gallium there. So this is all off the shelf, very modular approach to processing, the ore to get it to a high grade concentrate. And then our partnering discussions or offtakes and so on and customer validation largely will depend on what product they would like to receive. So we're proving that we can separate the precious metals from the gallium. We can deliver a gallium gold silver concentrate if we can get paid for it all, or we believe we can separate it. So this is the work that we are repeating right now with the larger sample, which we expect then get bags of product that hopefully we can then use for a discussion with customers. We have found in speaking with the groups that there's no real consensus right now on the product they would like to receive. There's a lot of unknowns, and I think that's just an example of the market as one main seller, one to two main buyers, which mostly sit in Southeast Asia, and that's where a large part of the knowledge exists. And so our opportunity is to create a product that these guys can validate, and we think that's a 2027 discussion, which is only 6-7 months away. So we know where the gallium sits. We know how big it is, roughly. And then the gold and silver will carry a large part of the capital and the value for Golconda as well. It's a holistic approach, an integrated approach to exploration and mining here at Golconda. And so we highlight just some of the results from the recent announcement. So including, hole 9, this is a diamond hole. So hole 6 is the 2023 hole. We found the precious metals here in the green Lynette vein system. Hole 9 is we stepped just down the hill a little bit, drilled through. We deep tagged the green Lynette here, and then the 17 meters at 4 grams gold and 70 silver, and a bit of zinc in the Good Hope vein. So this is now tagging these parallel vein structures. They give us the opportunity to add volume, and then it's about understanding what those parallel veins look like up and down the strike. So that 1.3 to 1.5 kilometers, and this width now becomes the value proposition. The alteration of where the gallium sits at surface is very discrete, 75 to 100 meters wide, and that's mostly in and around the tub, and that's that district structure. We do see the alteration rock in and around these other veins. So we'll expect to see more gallium and more of the sericite and more alteration as we drill out through this western side. But at this stage for now, the volume looks like it will be coming from the tub, but we don't discount the fact there's going to be more of it in and around, and that's just how the system has come about. The silver grades here are pretty sexy as well. So, that's almost a gram of gold equivalent. 105 grams, almost 2 grams gold equivalent. 267 is closer to 4 grams gold equivalent on the current ratio. So a gold silver concentrate here will have lots of value, will travel well. And there's a lot of facilities in Southwest USA between Nevada and Arizona that can take this product. And so we think payabilities should be pretty good, and it'll be a pretty good concentrate to deliver. The RC drilling in June that we announced, GRC 39 was on the western side. So this is what expand our knowledge of that 500-meter structure. And GRC 40 we do not show in this section, but for brevity, I wanted to keep the slides down. But GRC 40 is the 1.3 kilometer point, so the northern part of Golconda, where we've proven we've got mineralization. So not as much gold in GRC 39, but clearly significant silver. So you're looking at 3 to 4 grams gold equivalent there. This is a nice shallow intercept. So that's a fantastic result, including 5 meters at the better part of 450 grams silver. You're looking at 6, 7, 8 grams gold equivalent. So that bulks up to be a really great hole for us and proves that this Good Hope vein is mineralized and the Mexican this far north. So that's that's the northwestern corner of that larger rectangle. This is that hole that starts to peg that in. GRC 40 is the northeastern peg and corner of that rectangle. Another shallow result, 15 meters at 8 grams gold, including 60 silver. So now you're starting to understand the value of these parallel veins, and I would expect this bulks up to be not a 4, 5, 8 gram project. It'd be a lot less than that, but we expect and hope it'll carry lots of volume. And the drilling over the next year or two will prove that concept up. The core drilling, picked up and followed on from GRC 21 and 22. Consistent gallium through these holes, more of the same, especially through this tub vein, which is more of the alteration rock. And then the channel samples at surface, they're in situ samples, so that's not float or anything mobile. That's sort of taking the rock from the surface there, running decent grade gold and silver, especially through these wider channels, and then seeing the great results here. So you can cast your eye up and down our table here. The GRC 22 was reported in July last year, and is still getting good 0.3s up to 1.5 2 grams gold, and then you're seeing decent silver results. So again, the value here will be a large part will be the precious metals at the moment, unless gallium price does something silly, and then it definitely becomes sort of the three-way tie between the metals. But philosophically, for now, we see the gallium at surface being supportive of permitting, and also some early cash flow we expect to then hopefully explore and build a larger precious metals opportunity. But it is one big project, fully integrated, and the physical properties of where the gallium sits and where the precious metals sit largely provides us the luxury of having that flexibility. So I think high level, the journey that we've been on since pre-IPO till the recent drilling, bringing just a first principles approach to building up the model and then executing, evolving the model, following exactly what the process and the outcomes have told us, and then just drilling away and to keep on drilling on success. So, district scale now, Golconda has become quite large, plenty of opportunity to add to the strike length here. If you look, we've only drilled 1.3 to probably 1.7 kilometers of the structure. The corridor and the width has expanded significantly, and the vertical extent is, down to roughly 400 meters. I think most of our drilling going forward will be a bit shallower, and adding some volume and some grade in tons now. We know it's deeper, but I don't think we'll get the reward for that just yet. Let's prove up what's going on a bit shallower. That also provides for more footage and more meters, and a better way to add value to the project and for all shareholders. The gallium envelope has not changed. It is big. Intervals are thick. While we see the gallium in the granite, that is not our target for commercialization. There's definitely the altered rock, and that alteration zone is big and significant as well. And that's a huge opportunity. Where we see gold and silver, we can grab it out. The gallium, again, integrated model. So potential for low cost sort of polymetallic operation, and then significant strategic minerals credits, okay, is the best way to look at Golconda. That's kind of Golconda. That's a catch up on the last 12 months of work. It's hard to do it justice in sort of 35 minutes, but there's a lot of work going on. Still a lot of results to deliver on assays. More met test and mineralogy test work on the bulk sample at Golconda, and then that's our segue now into Nevada. So, Whitecaps has followed a similar DNA and background to Golconda. So Whitecaps has gone through, taking all the historical data and modeling it. Then, our first principles exploration work through, and I'll show you that in these slides, and culminating in the high grade intercept we delivered at the start of this week. So, Whitecaps is a different geological setting, but the opportunity for large discoveries is high here. We expect and we hope, or I hope. But the historical mine of small ounces at decent grade up until the 40s and 50s. Freeport McMoran drilled this in the early 80s and didn't bother to come back. And largely, the project has not benefited with some of the modern drilling techniques and a modern technical view over the last 30, 40 years. And we've just sort of come in and spent the time, measure twice, cut once before we got the rigs out. So strategic location, we're roughly 10 to 20 kilometers as the crow flies from Round Mountain. So we're in good company. And we're adjacent to the former Manhattan Gold Mine, which is owned by TSX company, TSXV listed Scorpio Gold. Fantastic technical team. They're doing fantastic work. And they've followed a very similar model and delivered a maiden resource at one of their projects. There's a historical resource there, but they're again great guys doing great work. So 28 patented claims, 74 unpatented, and then historical mine grades were an ounce up to over 2 ounces over decent widths, and it followed the limestone unit as it dipped down underground and very discreet. In 2023, so we made the announcement of acquiring Whitecaps in late 2022. I think you'll understand and see the opportunity that we saw, but also back then the gold price was closer to $1,500, $1,800 an ounce, and even lower for when we purchased a Golconda. And so the value of being early, having opportunity to do the work, and then position the company for these high value propositions. We've had a tailwind of commodity prices, a tailwind of a tier one jurisdiction in the United States being far more favorable and supportive of exploration. And we expect mining as well as we go through the gears of the next few years. So it basically grabbed all the historical data we could at Whitecaps in 2023, did a lot of mapping, soil sampling, rock chips, and so on, and trying to put together a more cohesive, sort of larger model and opportunity. The discrete Whitecaps mine is just here. Again, it's a shaft with an underground. Our supposition was that it had to be a broader halo and opportunity of potentially not 30-gram gold, but definitely an opportunity to bulk up to be a larger, lower grade opportunity and more shallow and open pittable. So we delivered this outcome in late 23. A lot of rock chips, 2 grams, 5 grams, 72, 7. Just for perspective, there's 2 kilometer scale down there. You're looking at roughly 2 kilometers of strike, probably the better part of a kilometer width, and then depth unknown. But a massive opportunity, to make a discovery, we believed. We saw pathfinder elements that gave us a level of comfort that we were in the middle of something. So a typical sediment hosted or Carlin style, you absolutely need to see these pathfinder minerals with it. You need to see the arsenic, the antimony, and the thallium. And we do see significant, of all three, especially through this early part of the sampling program. So taking this news and this data, evolving the model, and then we generated our high profile targets in no particular order other than let's drill in the shadows of these 3 mines here. So the old Manhattan, the Earl, and the Whitecaps. We do see other shafts and scratchings here that we don't believe have a name, but we're in very good company here. So we started drilling here. This is roughly 2 kilometers through here. And these are the RC holes that we drilled in 2025 and we delivered late last year. Decent grade observations of decent widths. For perspective, 80 to 90% of Nevada gold production comes from the Carlin style trends. The average head grade of the mine grade of these projects are 0.4 to 0.5. So when you're approaching a gram or above, you sort of double the mine grade of a lot of the projects of incumbent production. So this is a fantastic result. This is exciting, especially to have these intercepts over these widths, quite shallow, and then across the 1 to 2 kilometers of strike. So within that, we hit a nice vein of antimony. So 3.5% of antimony in the system down at 78 to 79 meter mark, and elevated. And we see consistent in and out of grade of antimony in the system. So probably not dissimilar to say Perpetua with their stibnite gold and antimony mine. Antimony will be part of the solution here at Whitecaps. It probably won't only be 5% maybe of economics. We're not sure, but prevailing this will be largely a gold project, and then a nice byproduct come along for the ride will be the antimony. So these 12 holes were largely first proper angle drilling at the property ever. It was mostly just to get a feel and understanding of lithology and geology and so on. Drilled only down to about 100 meters, and it was literally a bit like our 2023 program at Golconda. Let's get the rig out and let's just have a look and see what's going on. So as a first pass, this was successful. This is exciting. And then that gave us the opportunity to understand a bit more for targeting. And then we generated, updated the model, generated targets, and we drilled 5 more core holes, and culminating in the first hole delivering 13.5 meters at almost 8 grams gold and 2.3 silver from 305. Fantastic intercept. I mean, in Nevada, 5 grams is high grade for an underground, so we're kind of punching above our weight on that already. Within that, you see almost 4 meters at 24 grams, you're almost running an ounce. Our supposition being this green oblong is what we believe is the source of the mineralization here at Whitecaps. So this is what we call an intrusion, and the target's the intrusion. We did drill 2 deep holes there. They're roughly 2,000 feet deep. And the opportunity to understand that effectively this mineralization at surface where the mines are, it dips back down, down towards this intrusion. This is a mag anomaly, and that the opportunities to prove up mineralization in between the historical mines and everything at surface tracks back to here. So success is even not just seeing slight mineralization in the intrusion, but just knowing and proving that's the source, we'll start to connect the dots of clearly next steps for drilling. So the 5 core holes drilled this year, it's been completed. Hole 1 we just reported on. Similar sediment hosted targets being 2 and 5, and the intrusion targets 3 and 4. We are yet to deliver on the assays on this over the next 2 months, and but very exciting times. To try and start to pigeonhole this as far as, maybe is this a 2 kilometer sort of structure? And then we're seeing the gold in the lithology in the middle structure in that unit deeper, and then clearly tracking that back up towards surface is a massive opportunity. So the 3 units we intersected is roughly 200 meters deep distance and down dip from where we see the units exposed at surface. So we don't have to track it back too far, but just simply in a cross section, first hole, 1 from 1, we're seeing this middle unit is where the mineralization is. The opportunity is to try and track that back up 200 meters towards surface and prove that there's some volume there, and then along the 2 kilometers of strike. So 1 from 1 is exciting. If we can convert that to 2 or 3 out of 5 over the next quarter, then that'll be really exciting for us and puts us on a pathway for de-risking and adding value at Whitecaps. And then we've got 2 high quality projects in the portfolio. So Golconda, we own 100%. We are working through the option at Whitecaps, but clearly we're trying to focus on getting as much money in the ground at Whitecaps over the next few years to prove up that opportunity. Just for context, and this is the drilling in the shadows of head frames. So Scorpio, very active. They're releasing sort of a hole every 2 or 3 weeks at the moment. And they've sort of got 3 rigs going, I believe. They delivered a maiden resource for this orange part here is the main part of their resource at the moment. The 2 historical pits here. Those 750,000 ounces at roughly 1.26 grams gold. With their drilling, they're proving up their model. We expect that grows, and this is just a starting point for these guys. The historical resource of 5.89 grams gold is pretty impressive as well. So they're looking at 1 million ounces all in. And I think like them, we agree that this is a massive camp or a big district where there's going to be a lot of ounces to be found. So this light colored portion here is more, and this northern end is our ground here. And so we expect that between us and Scorpio, we're going to unlock significant value here. over the next year or two. So that gives you an idea spatially of where the projects sit in relation to each other. Like I said, they've got a great technical team and they're cracking on. And we're backing ourselves with our project as well. And you'll see more results here over the next year or two.